Welcome, everyone, to the Information's TITV. My name is Akash Pasricha. It is Tuesday, August 19th, and we have got another tour of the technology sector today, folks. We are talking to Beehiiv CEO Tyler Denk about what's next for his hit newsletter platform. We're also talking about robotics and a great story that we're publishing today about how much these machines still rely on humans to do their work. We've then got some new funding news about 8 Sleep, and we've got the CEO of that company coming on the show to talk about it. But I want to start with a great story that we published this morning. Many media companies have jumped at the opportunity to strike deals with AI giants like OpenAI and Perplexity, but now some media firms are starting to rethink how they want to get paid for their content. I want to bring on Cathy Perloff, who published a story today on that exact topic, and I also want to bring on Paul Bannister, the Chief Strategy Officer at advertising company Raptive, to give some more of his color on the topic. Welcome to you both. It's great to have you here. Cathy, let's start with you. What did you find?
Yeah, so, a lot of the existing deals that publishers have with AI firms are paid on a flat fee, which is something that I learned from talking to folks in the industry. And publishers are starting to think about a different model for how they might get money from AI firms, especially as like the whole AI boom sort of existentially threatens websites. If no one goes to websites because they're in chatbots, no one's going to see websites ads. How are they going to make money? So this idea comes of usage. So every time a AI chatbot might crawl a website or use any of its content, a publisher could get paid for how much of the content the AI firm uses. And that's sort of a more recurring revenue model than just a flat fee model. I think part of what has inspired publishers to start thinking about this is first, the crawling of their websites has really increased in the past year from AI firms, which shows that AI firms still need publishers' content, even if their chatbots are up and running. These firms are making a ton of money
Right.
charging developers on a usage basis. So that means NIMBY could pay publishers on a usage basis. And then finally, the IAB Tech Lab, which is a kind of advertising trade organization, has put out some proposals for how this might happen. So has Cloudflare, which is like a web infrastructure company. Those proposals have come out both this summer. And then we have learned that Perplexity is launching a new uh, model for how to pay publishers. They already are paying publishers based on some ad revenue that they generate, but
Right.
some of the new model would take into account some other factors that could be usage related. And that is supposed to come out in a couple weeks or so.
Got it. So there's a lot there. So the way I understand it is, again, publishers have strike these deals with these AI companies. They were a flat fee model traditionally. The publishers now want to switch that to a usage-based model, presumably because of the fact that they are finding that their stuff is getting leaked to more and more often. The center character of this whole story is the Interactive Advertising Bureau. Paul, can you give us a little bit of context on the IAB? What role have they traditionally played in advertising, and why are they important here?
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm on the board of the IAB Tech Lab.
Okay.
But I think the IAB and the Tech Lab part of it play two roles. One is a traditional trade group. How do we grow the market? How do we bring more money in? And obviously been quite successful at that in general over the last couple of decades in terms of really growing the amount of advertising money that is spent on the internet, which is great. The Tech Lab specifically sets the technical standards for how advertising works in terms of programmatic advertising, in terms of the different ad formats and things like that. And so they've been very involved in kind of that part of the market. And I think with this kind of these new specs around how LLM and generative AI monetization may work, the Tech Lab is kind of moving a little bit even beyond advertising into like, what are new monetization models for publishers in general, and what does the world look like in the future?
And so usage-based pricing, I guess, is one model there. Do we have any data as to how much these publishers have seen their traffic decline because of these chatbots?
Well, from our side, what we've seen is very vertical in terms of how things are going. Certain verticals have been hit very hard. Other verticals have been doing totally fine, and also very
Like which ones are hurting more than others?
a vertical that has been down a lot is like personal finance.
Okay.
So that kind of content has seen a pretty dramatic nosedive, whereas like food and cooking content has been doing pretty fine. And I think part of it is, what is the type of information people are looking for in those areas, and where is AI a better replacement for that versus AI being kind of more an augmentation to that?
Cathy, how big were these deals in the first place, the flat fee models?
Yeah, they're confidential, but we have some kind of insight into them, which is, at the larger end, they're like maybe tens of millions of dollars a year. Like the Wall Street Journal's reported that their parent company News Corp's deal with OpenAI was like 250 million over 5 years. Uh, Similarly, it was reported that Axel Springer's deal with OpenAI tens of millions of euros a year. Um, but also a lot of them, and I've heard this from, people in the publishing industry too, only single digit millions. And, the information actually reported last year that some of the deals OpenAI was offering publishers were like 1 to 5 million. So, I think there is
From a company that really, I mean, OpenAI is making billions of dollars in
right.
revenue right now.
They're making 1 billion a month. So like, maybe they have more to give. That's what publishers would say. I don't know.
Right.
They have a lot of other costs like infrastructure and et cetera. Yeah.
So, Paul, we heard some of the numbers here, single digit millions, maybe 25 million, even in some cases. How much upside do you think there is if the publishers would switch to, if the OpenAI, if the AI companies would agree to these
Yeah.
usage-based models, could these deals get in the hundreds of millions? I mean, how big could they get?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, the how big can they get exactly is a hard question, but I do think that the model of paying on usage is the right way to think about things. Let's all work together to create something that is used and great in the future. And if our interests are all aligned and we're all kind of working towards the same goal, that will make things better. I think as publishers think about, should I implement MCP to make it easier for AI companies to scrape my content and give access to that in more structured and useful ways? There's an investment in that. And if publishers can say, hey, I know I'm going to be compensated in the future for this in a way that really aligns my interests, I'm more likely to do those sort of things because they're going to help the AI companies out. So I think it's like alignment of interest is the most critical thing here.
And other than you talked about the different monetization models, usage-based pricing is one way to go. What are the other sort of ways you could see perhaps publishers getting creative insofar as how they're compensated by these AI companies?
In my opinion, it's less about it's more about like within usage based pricing, what's the right like unit.
Okay.
Is it, with there are paper crawl models, there are paper query models, there are other things being developed right now. What is that right kind of, what is the right unit that the AI companies are paying for, and what's the way that, again, that aligns interests in the right way. I think, for me, I think we're biased towards the paper query. I think that is the most aligning, but there's a lot of testing going on right now around paper crawl just to see, like, is that a good model? Can that work?
And is there any data out there right now around how many crawls there are per day or per customer or anything like that?
Yeah, Cloudflare has a lot of data around this that's pretty public. I think Cathy has shared some of this in her article that was really good. Um, I think the biggest thing is almost like the absolute numbers are quite large, but there's also this point of the ratio of the number of crawls an AI company does to your site and the amount of traffic it sends you. To use
Okay.
Google as the example, and paraphrasing the numbers as I remember them, but a couple of years ago, for every one time Google crawled a site, it would send 2 visitors. Now that number has inverted and it's something like 1 to 10. So for every 10 crawls, you only get 1 visitor. And the other AI companies are even more extreme than that in terms of the ratio perspective. And I think that's what makes it so clear to publishers that AI companies need this content. This is critical
Hmm.
to be able to feed their models and to be able to do the grounding in real time to really answer the queries in the right way. And so, okay, that crawl number's gone up a lot. Is that the right way to price things? Remains to be seen. But that crawl ratio, I think, is the most important metric.
Cathy, we got to go, but say more about that data. You seem to have known that data pretty intimately.
No, actually, no,
Okay. I thought Paul suggested maybe.
Paul did, but I have heard it. Paul knows it better, but I think it's a
Okay.
really interesting point. But
Okay. Well, I thought maybe you guys had talked about this on your phone call last night or something like that. Okay. Last question for you, Cathy. Before we let you go, why wasn't the pricing model a usage based model in the first place? They designed these deals. They went for the flat fee. Why didn't they see this coming?
it's a great question, and I think the issue is that publishers didn't want to get like scammed, and I think there was an idea that there wasn't enough data out there to really come up with the right criteria to figure out like what a usage based model would look like, or what criteria at all should be publishers should bring to the table when negotiating with AI companies like OpenAI. A lot of publishers I talked to just like didn't know what would be relevant because traditionally the way publishers have been paid is via advertising. That doesn't really exist in the chatbot world. So you can't say, oh, well, I've you've brought me this much ad revenue. This many visitors are connected to this much ad revenue. So it's a little bit the Wild West, and I think that usage is just like we're just starting to be mature enough here where maybe we can talk about some actual math.
Right.
One publisher I spoke to actually said we tried to think about like with ad revenue or how much content we had and come up with a number to give OpenAI.
Right.
But, like, we realized it would be more than they would pay. So we just were like, let's get the highest number we can get. So I think that like they're right. There just wasn't enough data, and maybe we're starting to get there, but we'll see.
Got it. Well, look, Cathy and Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about it. Again, Cathy, it was a great story. We will link it in the show notes. That is Cathy from The Information and Paul from Raptive. Okay, for our next segment, robotics have been front and center this year with many stunning advances in what these machines can do, but apparently many of these robots aren't as good and as autonomous as we might think. I want to bring on The Information's Rocket Drew to talk about a story he wrote today on that topic. And I also want to bring on John Miller Schwartz, the CEO of Ultra Robotics, to share his perspective of his own company. Both of you, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having us, Akash.
John,
Likewise, thank you.
John, now you said you were going to bring a robot to the stream. If we could get a full stream, is that a robot behind you? Do I see it?
Exactly. This is one of our robots. This is in our lab. We use this robot for development and testing of our AI policies.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about your robot in a second. Rocket, you wrote this great story today about the humans behind robots. Tell us about what you found.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, the idea of robots and autonomous vehicles is, of course, that they should operate autonomously. That's kind of the goal. It's right there in the name. But if you've been seeing some of the flashier demos, videos of robots working over the past year or so, and you've been listening to some statements, public statements from the more booster type CEOs, you might have the impression that robots can basically do anything autonomously already, and they're about to march into your home and do all your chores for you tomorrow. So you might be surprised to learn about the large role that humans have behind the scenes in supporting robots of many different stripes: robots on wheels, robots on legs, robots in industrial settings, robots in homes. So our article is a look at some of the ways that humans are supporting these robots behind the scenes, from providing guidance and judgment about decisions all the way down to remotely operating, sort of puppeteering the robots, what roboticists might call teleoperation. So that's the premise of the story. I think it's not some big scandal, but it might come as a surprise if you've been following robotics from a distance. I think people in the industry would tell you this is just an important step. It's a key ingredient to bringing robots out of development into the labs and into the real world.
And what are these humans doing in the background for these robots?
It depends on the case. In the case of some autonomous vehicles, maybe your car gets confused. It encounters a situation it hasn't seen before, maybe a strange-looking construction site, maybe a swarm of bees fills the road, and it just doesn't know what to do. It could sort of call for help, figuratively speaking, and a human behind the scenes could say, yep, that's a construction site. You've seen these before. You know how to proceed. Other times it involves a person wearing a specialized glove or wearing a VR headset and controlling the robot, actually using your remote control to teach the robot how to manipulate certain objects in the world.
So, John, are your robots, are they semi-autonomous? Do they have humans controlling them in the background?
So our robots today are semi-autonomous. And what that means is the operation is a combination of both an AI policy, which is literally controlling the movement of the robot, but we also have a human in the loop, we like to say, that is watching the live stream from the robot and in certain cases can intervene if the robot is off course, not doing the right thing, hits some issue and gets stuck. And that's where there's a lot of value basically in rolling out these AI policies, is it allows us to actually get them into the real world, have the robot create real value for our customers, but then also have people there to make sure that the robots can operate reliably over time.
And the goal eventually is to make it fully autonomous without any humans in the loop. Is that the idea?
Yeah, eventually we'll get there. It may be a number of years away. Ultimately, the goal is just how do we make it more autonomous over time? There are really two benefits to that. One is from a margins perspective, we would obviously love our robots to be more autonomous, which makes them lower cost to operate. But it also, in our view, improves the product experience for our customers. Part of the dream of having a robot is having basically always available productivity and labor. And so the more autonomous it is, the more easy it is for our customers to just decide to turn it on at any given point in time and have it operate and do the job.
Rocket, it feels like this is actually more common than we might think. I mean, I remember hearing about the Alexa voice devices, for example, these articles about people are actually listening to anonymized voice cues in the background or stuff like. I mean, this is pretty common, right?
Yeah, I think this is great to clarify. I mean, there are a lot of robots in the world, and robotics isn't new. So, robots have been performing repetitive tasks in industrial settings in factories for decades, say welding parts of cars together to assemble them. So, there are plenty of robots that do work autonomously, but they tend to be working in more limited, more narrow ways, say bolting the same part together
Right.
every minute after minute, day after day, without a lot of variability. The kind of robots that we're really zooming into in this story is the frontier of robotics, the place where AI is sort of pushing the capabilities of robots, allowing robots to perform tasks they haven't been able to do in the past in
Right.
environments where they haven't been able to work in the past. So I think Ultra is a great example of this, actually, right on the frontier of what AI is making possible in robotics right now in warehouse settings and e-commerce logistics, for example.
So, John, I want to ask you, there's been a fear, I think, that has come with robotics that, oh, robots are going to replace humans. Humans are going to run out of jobs. This is going to be a big problem. And here we have a story about the reality that there are still humans behind the robots. And so, do you think that fear is overblown? I mean, it seems like we're still maybe decades away from a robot replacing a human entirely because there's still a human in the loop. What's your thought here?
Exactly, Akash. I think that fear is overblown to a degree. It's the scary sci-fi future that we all want to avoid. The truth is, when we walk into our customers' warehouses in the United States, there is a real labor shortage, and they have a very challenging time finding the people to fill the roles that they need to operate every single day. You read a lot about this in the newspapers, but this is the experience that they live continuously. So I think that there's a much greater upside in the near term for actually helping to fill that labor shortage and provide them with affordable, scalable productivity in the form of autonomous robots. And that's what we're trying to do at Ultra.
Rocket, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think these kinds of jobs offer an interesting counterpoint to narratives about AI-enabled job displacement. The sort of the role of being a teleoperator for robots behind the scene is an interesting example of sort of an AI job, a job that you wouldn't have seen, say, 5, 10 years ago.
It's like the new prompt engineer for
Exactly.
robotics
Prompt
almost.
engineering, data labeling is maybe another example of that. Now, as companies, their goal is to be more autonomous over time. We'll have to see what happens to this class of jobs. But for the time being, it seems like there's something that humans have to offer still, according to their sort of comparative advantage, right? The humans are offering really, dexterous movements that the robots haven't quite mastered yet, or judgment about how to understand different scenes and what actions you're supposed to take in those scenes. So humans still have something to offer robots, at least for now.
Great.
Also, just to add, Rocket, that on the other side, we've seen that within our customers' warehouses, there's an exciting new opportunity for people on the warehouse floor to be working alongside with these robots and helping to maintain them, make sure that they're up and running. And it's really a great opportunity to upskill yourself and get to work with new cutting edge technology. So there are lots of different names for that role, but it's an exciting kind of direction that we're seeing things head in.
That's a great point also, because in the labor question, there's a sort of secondary equity question that's about, well, maybe jobs are created, but is it the same people whose jobs were taken that now have a new job, right? If you have an autonomous vehicle riding through the streets, but it's being puppeted by someone who works in Mexico, maybe your taxi driver in New York City is still out of a job. But there are a few instances where people who, they went from operating some piece of equipment to now teleoperating a robot to do the same sort of task. So there's complexity there.
John, last question for you. How big are these teams of humans behind these robots right now at some of these companies?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other companies, but here at Ultra, we have on the order of, I'd say, a dozen people who we've trained up on how to teleoperate our robots. And these people are core to our day-to-day operations. They're the ones who are controlling the robots in real time when the AI policy isn't. And then they're also helping us just with the ops because they're actually doing the job. And so there needs to be a lot of tight coordination between us and them to go and provide value for our customers.
Great. Well, look, John, next time you come on the show, what we're going to have to do is we're going to get that robot behind you to give us a bit of a demo, and we're going to see how the whole thing works. And maybe you can introduce us to one of those people in the background that are helping to operate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, John. And thank you, Rocket, for that great story. That is Rocket from The Information and John from Ultra. Well, newsletters have become the new highway for publishing, and Substack has long been one of the only dominant players. But over the past few years, Beehiiv has quickly gained traction and is now duking it out with Substack as Beehiiv becomes increasingly popular. The Information published a great piece in our weekend magazine a few weeks ago about Beehiiv. I will link it in the show notes. But I want to bring on the CEO of Beehiiv, Tyler Denk, for an inside look as to how he is building the company. Tyler, welcome to TITV. It's great to have you.
Good morning. I wish I had a background like John, but it's just my bedroom.
Well, I was going to say, I thought you told me you were going for a swim this morning. I thought maybe you were going to zoom in from the swimming pool.
Yeah, I did get a mile swim in this morning, so I woke up early for you this morning.
Okay, great. Well, the key to a great newsletter is getting a swim in the morning. That's from Tyler Denk, folks. Look, we wrote the story. Some of the financial figures interested me. The story said that you are doing you've done $20 million in annual revenue, and you're at a $30 million run rate. Help me square those two numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So our core business is the SaaS business, and we're generating 20 million ARR right now. We also have an ad network built on top of the SaaS business. So we have advertisers like Nike, AG1, Netflix, Roku that are advertising within the newsletters in our ecosystem. And that's a $10 million revenue run rate business right now. So that's how you get the 20 million plus the 10 million gets you to 30. The ad network is growing extremely quickly. And so, yeah, on pace for about 100% year over year growth in total this year.
So that's you're planning to double your total revenue this year in 2025.
Correct.
Got it. And for the ad network, do you find the advertisements for the newsletter authors, or are they bringing their own sponsors?
So we are unopinionated. We are pro creator monetization, right? So if you want to monetize your newsletter and you already have a direct relationship with advertisers, you can do that on the platform. We don't take a cut of revenue. That is yours to entirely earn. What we do is we are sending 2.5 billion emails per month. We have over 30,000 active publishers on the platform. And so that attracts advertisers like the Nikes and Netflix of the world who want to get in front of these niche audiences via email. And so what we do is we have a ML team building models based on all of the historical data that can identify for this specific advertiser in this campaign, what are the best few thousand newsletters that will perform the best for the advertiser, also who is in the best interest for the publisher to promote to their audience. And so we have all of these models running that we've been training for several years now. And the end result is publishers wake up every Sunday, they receive an email with 5 to 10 different ad opportunities, and it's totally opt-in. They can decide to run ads for $3 CPC, $10 CPM, whatever that is, or they could choose to run their own ads or not monetize at all. We are just pro creator monetization, and however we can help our users grow and monetize, we're in favor of building tools to do that.
I want to talk about the models you're using in just a second, but I just want to go back to that growth figure. You're planning double revenue, you said, this year. Are you taking writers from Substack?
I'd like to think we're taking writers from everyone in the ecosystem. Okay. I think we're because of when we launched and the ecosystem that Substack had built a few years prior, we're always very closely coupled and compared to Substack. I think Substack's actually closer to building a social network competing with like an X and a Threads, more so than an open newsletter platform and website builder that we are building.
Right.
So they're clearly going for, network effects and social. And you can see that in the app and the way that they have this closed ecosystem. We are open. We have APIs. We have webhooks. We play nicely with other third-party platforms. You could be a large publisher or creator who has a website on WordPress and a massive YouTube channel, and we play nicely with both of those platforms. So I understand the comparison to Substack, but we're getting users both from starting newsletters from scratch, from being large content creators on YouTube and other social platforms, and then also all of your traditional email platforms like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Campaign Monitor, etc. There's a pretty broad ecosystem of email tools.
So basically, when people ask you, how do you compete with Substack? Your answer is, we're not building a social network.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that more and more. I think Substack actually launched something yesterday with like Apple subscriptions or whatever, where if you read the comments, that it wasn't a very well received launch.
Okay.
And so a lot of the feedback to us and our users is
What were they saying?
it's just like take rate and the take rate and the app ecosystem, right? So we don't take a cut of subscription revenue from our readers. So we also allow our users to monetize their audience directly. So
Okay.
they can have a paid subscription. They can charge 10, 20, whatever they want per month, and offer a membership business. And we don't take a cut of subscription revenue. So what you charge is what you earn on the platform. Substack, Patreon, other platforms in the creator economy ecosystem typically are a take rate business.
Right.
So they take a percentage of revenue. And so that's one of the big counter positioning where you can move from Substack hypothetically to our platform. You earn 10% back immediately. And that is your audience. And we aren't kind of trapping you into our ecosystem.
I want to ask you about this choice that you guys have made to sort of lean into the ability for your authors to create websites. You guys did an acquisition a little while back, a company called TypeDream, makes it easier for people to build websites. That's also part of your AI strategy, as I understand it, is helping authors make websites. Why are you leaning into that?
Yeah, it's a very competitive industry, right? So it's a great question.
I mean, everyone's doing it. This is like, all the big AI names in the space.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to my historical expertise. And when I was at Morning Brew as a second employee, we built this totally bespoke ecosystem of our custom website, our custom CMS for writers, and our custom monetization and ad network platform internally to Morning Brew. And what we got was, yes, Morning Brew had incredible content, and obviously that is the reason why the company grew. But we also had this well-oiled machine of tech that worked extremely well. And for a lot of these content creators and journalists, being able to connect your WordPress website to a separate email platform, to a separate monetization platform, there's a lot of different constituent parts to that.
Hmm.
And with the added complexity, it takes away from what a lot of these content creators and journalists want to do, which is create quality content and engage with their audience.
Right.
And so I saw it up close at Morning Brew, and we're seeing it now from the feedback from all of our users by
Right.
having an extremely powerful website builder with all of these different templates that allows you and your audience to engage with your content online, tightly coupled with the distribution with the email platform, and then all of the monetization layered on top of that. It's a very unique combination that we offer and sit pretty competitively placed in the ecosystem where you can
Right.
have a world-class website with the email newsletter tools with monetization. And we think that's a winning formula.
Well, I mean, I see that, but the thing that I'm thinking about here is if you're trying to compete in this space where you're making it easier to build websites and code these websites, I mean, that is expensive. This is an expensive endeavor. Why go into that space with all these models, stuff like that?
Yeah, and it's not as expensive as you think. I think for what we're doing on the AI side with the website builder and a lot more to come there. Right now, you can think of our website builder as something that would compete with a Webflow or Wix or Squarespace, with the added benefit of it's tightly coupled with our newsletter platform. And so, again, I think that as you've seen with a lot of these vibe coding platforms and solutions, that the barriers to entry and the friction to create a beautiful website that is your digital space online is becoming lower and lower. And we'll continue to lean in there and experiment with how we can leverage AI. But yeah, if we can offer 80 to 90% of the functionality of these established website builders with the kicker that you have all of the distribution and the best email platform in the ecosystem with an ad network on top and a paid subscription product that doesn't take a cut of revenue.
Right.
And then we also are an open ecosystem that can connect with any third-party platform. So whether you're large on YouTube, you have a large Discord channel, I think it's a very compelling offer and quite a counterposition to a lot of the other creator tools in the ecosystem.
Last question before we let you go. I mentioned Substack. It's hard not to talk about their big raise that they just did. They raised $100 million. Is Beehiiv raising?
Yeah, we are not raising. No plans to raise either.
No plans to raise.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Tyler, I'm excited about the features that you guys are offering, and also especially excited about the features that you're offering for journalists. We didn't even get to talking about the Media Collective, but next time you come on the show, we'll talk about that, and we'll talk some more about your plans in that space as well. That is Tyler Denk, the CEO of Beehiiv. Every so often, there is a product that really encapsulates all that Silicon Valley stands for, reinventing things that you didn't really think could ever be reinvented or needed to be reinvented. 8 Sleep has certainly become one of those products. The company makes a smart AI-infused mattress with loads of sensors and heating and cooling features. It raised another $100 million today from HSG Founders Fund and a couple of F1 race car drivers. I want to bring on the co-founder, Matteo Franceschetti, to talk all about what he's got going on with his business. Matteo, welcome to TITV. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So how many hours of sleep did you get last night?
Oh, I got my 8 hours.
8 hours. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
course.
you were like a 10 or 11 hour kind of guy.
yeah, but I had to wake up very early this morning for an interview. Otherwise, I usually try to sleep 8.5 or 9 hours.
Great. Okay. Well, let's talk about the business of sleep. You raised $100 million. What do you need the money for?
Well, yeah, this is our Series D. So overall, we raised $250 million, and we're really excited about this milestone. We are gonna focus on 3 main things. The first will be AI, and probably we'll chat more about that and how AI will help you live a better and longer life. We will double down on medical, so we will start filing for FDA in order to make sure some of our technologies are FDA approved. And the last one will be expansion. We are already in 30 countries. We already sell in 30 countries, but the next big move will be Asia, particularly China.
So you've got AI, you've got the FDA, and your international expansion. The FDA part is one of the most interesting parts here. So what are you planning to seek FDA approval for?
Well, in our backend, we are already fairly sophisticated from a medical standpoint. And one of the big opportunities for us is sleep apnea. And we want to file with FDA in order to be able to diagnose and also mitigate sleep apnea. We already run clinical studies internally, and we have evidence we can mitigate light and mild sleep apnea with some of the products we are working on.
And how does it actually address apnea?
Yeah, so first of all, we already have a product that is the Pod Ultra that raises your head and it helps you with snoring. So imagine that is the same feature but applied to sleep apnea.
Right.
And then we are also working on solution for positional therapy, which help around 90% of the people that tested it to mitigate their sleep apnea without wearing any CPAP machine.
And so if this is an FDA approved device in the end, is the idea that you get insurance to pay for it?
Exactly.
And it's a pretty expensive product. It's like $3,000. So insurance payments would be helpful. My question is, though, look, the FDA, I don't know the history of whether or not they've approved mattresses before, but if 8 Sleep gets an FDA approval, doesn't that just open the floodgates for any other mattress company to get FDA approval for sleep products?
Well, let me be clear about our technology. Our technology is not a mattress. Our technology is an accessory that goes on top of your mattress. You can think of a mattress cover that can be installed on top of any bed and will transform your dumb bed into a smart bed that will improve your sleep performance. And so there are no other products like that. And mattress companies don't have our technology.
Right.
They don't have our engineers. So you should think of us like a wearable. But instead than wearing the product on your wrist, you just sleep on it. And the main advantage is we will not just report the metrics, but we will actually do things for you while you are asleep and unconscious.
Got it. So you talked about being a wearable-esque product, and I think it's an interesting analogy. You have been in business now for 11 years. I think you were founded in 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah, we launched in 2015. So yeah,
2015. So you've been at this now for 10 years. There was some reporting that the company is profitable now. Is that right?
Yeah, we were free cash flow positive so far for the whole year and for most of the past 10 quarters.
Okay. And so if you're profitable, then why do you need to raise all this money?
Well, I start with a joke and then I'll answer, right? You always find money when you don't need money. That is when is the best time to raise. But in practical terms...
What do you mean by that? To say more about that.
Well, usually you have more demand from investors when the company is doing well. And to be doing well, you need to have good unit economics. So in our case, we were growing extremely fast. We are profitable. We have strong unit economics. And so we become a much more appealing business for more investors. And that is why we raised $100 million and we were oversubscribed. Then, why the money? Well, first, a consumer business, particularly in hardware, having a strong balance sheet is always important. Second is, as we mentioned, we want to double down in AI. We want to expand in Asia and in China, and we also want to go all in a new medical division.
Right.
And so, while we will keep being profitable, I think having more cash in the balance sheet will just give us more opportunities.
And I want to go back to this idea of investors sort of, being quite excited about your company. We've written in the past, actually very recently, about these founders that have been preempted with offers from venture investors. Were you preempted? Did you get unsolicited offers for this round?
Yeah, we were not really. We didn't run any process. It just happened. We were not even looking for money, but some of the best investors in the world wanted to come in or double down. Some were already investors, and that is the best position.
So you get
for
this
us.
unsolicited offer, and basically it's like, well, why not take the money? Essentially,
Exactly. Particularly now with strategic investors that can really enhance our growth.
got it. Look, I want to ask you a couple more questions before you go. In that story that we wrote a couple of years ago, you talked about the aspirations to make a hyperbaric chamber. Where are we on that?
Well, I already sleep in a prototype of that. So we already have 2 prototypes in the world. So we're working on that, and the results are pretty good. So just a matter of bandwidth, and that is also one of the other reasons why we raise money. You will see us introducing more products. Everything will be designed around improving your sleep performance and also extending your lifespan.
Right. And the other question I wanted to ask is, you talked about the company being profitable. So I know it's a quite expensive product. How much does it cost to make one of these mattress toppers, and where do you make them?
We produce in a couple of different geographies. The key, when you're a consumer product and hardware product, the key is to have strong unit economics
Right.
in order to make sure that then potentially you can go IPO, and then you can keep serving your customers for a very long period of time. Then there is always this trade-off between having strong margins that are market standard and having the most affordable price, so more people can afford the product. And that is the thin line you always need to balance as a CEO and CFO.
And so the goal for you is to IPO with this business. Do you think you can go public with it?
Yeah, our unit economics and our financial position is IPO ready. I think there are a couple of things that we want to achieve, as we discussed: no more products, FDA and medical, a few other things. But the company is here to stay with a very strong balance sheet, with very strong unit economics, which is very hard in hardware, in consumer hardware, and that is why you might have seen other companies struggling over the years. Well, instead, I think we have been very disciplined. That is why we are in such a strong position.
So what year are we thinking here? 26?
It's not immediate.
27, 28.
We're not in a rush.
Okay.
The key thing is to keep doing our job, serving customers. Now, a big thing for us is really word of mouth. A very large part of our revenue comes through word of mouth. That is why our CAC keeps going down year over year. And so if we keep doing that job, then the score will take care of itself, and we will IPO.
Great. Well, Matteo, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. It's a fascinating product. That is Matteo Franceschetti, the CEO of 8 Sleep. Well, that does it for today's show. I want to share some exciting news with you before we go. Tomorrow on the show, we've got some great guests for you, not the least of which is Brett Taylor, the CEO and co-founder at Sierra. He's coming on the show with another big name in AI right now, Winston Weinberg. Winston is the co-founder and CEO of Harvey. They're going to be kicking us off on the stream tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss it. Again, we are going live at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Before we go, I want to thank Amazon Web Services, who is our presenting sponsor for this production. And I want to thank you for tuning in. We really do appreciate your viewership. I am already excited for our next show tomorrow. And so until then, bye-bye for now.